to the Enterprise World magazine. Today, we are honored to feature a transformational leader who's empowering women veterans to reclaim their strength, voice, and healing journey through deep purpose coaching and deep emotional work. As the CEO of Michelle Speaks Co., if you can hide it, you can't heal it. She has built a powerful platform focused on helping women confront hidden pain, embrace vulnerability, and transform their lives with courage and clarity. Her work stands as a beacon of resilience, healing, and empowerment for those who have served and continue to navigate life beyond service. Please join me in welcoming an inspiring force behind meaningful change, Michelle Angelique Perry Porter. I'll just repeat it again. Michelle Angelique Perry Porter. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you on our show today. So let's get started with the first question. So, can you share the story of how your journey began? What inspired you to become a healing coach and to focus specifically on women veterans?
Okay. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on. I am honored to share the platform and to be a beacon of light and a source of hope for women that maybe have lost their hope. And a little bit of my journey, like what led me here to this place, is partly because of my own journey. Growing up, I was at an early age encountered some things that children should not have to experience. I was sexually violated by members of my family, and that just continued on. And the message was what goes on in the house stays in the house. And, it was something that was not to be talked about. It was very shameful. So I learned very, very early to be silent, to be quiet, before I even realized that I had a voice. My voice was literally stripped from me. And that continued on through my teenage years into my adult years. And there were some other things, some other traumas that had I encountered, and it just kind of compounded. And so by the time I was 17, 18, I had graduated from high school, and I was looking for a way, because I've always had a heart to serve. And I was looking for a way to separate myself from the dysfunction that I grew up in. So I joined the military. What better way to serve and serve your country than to join the military? And for me, that was a way for me to reinvent myself. And so by joining the military, I had to be the best at everything. I excelled at everything that I did, because I just had such a high standard. Because I was like, I'm wiping the slate clean. I can be whoever I create myself to be. But I ran right into the same kind of trauma that I endured growing up. I was sexually assaulted by a fellow service member that I was serving along as I was serving my country. I was being violated by those that I was serving with. And then additionally, I went on to marry a service member thinking that he would be my protector because he was 6'4", 330, built like a brick wall. So my thought was nobody could get to me without going through him first. And so, but that ended up being very combustive, because he had his own challenges. And, when you trauma bond, it's explosive. It's explosive. It's only a matter of time. So that relationship, that marriage was very combustive. So there was sexual abuse in the marriage, there was domestic abuse. And so by the time I got out of the military, I was devastated. I felt like a shell of a person. I got ill and had to get out. I was medically released with a heart condition. And I had that heart condition for about a year that went unresolved before I started. And I realized, that there is more to life than this. There is more than this. I am more than the things that have happened to me. I'm more than my trauma. And I started to seeking ways to kind of talk about it and get free from it. And I tried, traditional therapy, and some of that didn't work. So I went to like alternative forms of therapy in addition to that. And once I began to heal, I saw the need. There were so many other women, and especially women veterans, that were suffering the same thing that I had suffered, but they were suffering in silence, and that silence was killing them, literally. And so that was part of the thing that sparked me into creating Michelle Speaks, because, my tagline is if you hide it, you can't heal it. But I lived that. Silence breeds sickness. Things that we hold in, continually hold in and hold in, it's going to get to the point where it's either going to explode externally or it's going to implode in our body, because our body holds trauma. So that is essentially why and how Michelle Speaks was created.
I think it's a very brave and extraordinary journey that you've been through. And many, many congratulations on coming this far. I think you're a very, very brave woman, Michelle. So,
Thank
my
you.
next question to you would be like you mentioned that you faced a lot of challenges, but what were some of the challenges, like biggest challenges you faced when, starting Michelle Speaks Co, and also how did you overcome them?
Right. So I believe one of the greatest challenges was facing the thing that I didn't want to face. Actually, Michelle Speaks was birthed out of, I went on an expedition in Peru. I was one of 10 disabled veterans. I was the only female, where we climbed the Andes Mountain at 17 plus thousand feet. And so that at that point, I had to face two of my greatest fears. The first one being afraid of heights, and the second one being around the opposite sex for an extended period of time. So I forced myself to be in an environment where I had to challenge that fear, where I had to face that fear. That was the greatest challenge. And so when I was climbing, once I got to the top of that mountain, because I went on this expedition because I had just come through the fifth of five failed suicide attempts. And I was just at a point where I was desperate. I was like, look, I've got to do something because if I don't, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be here. And so on that climb, it was more than just about the climb. It was like a journey. It was me going inside and looking and trying to pull what was within out so that I would feel free. And I realized that I didn't want to die. I just want to say, I just wanted to live without the pain that I was hiding. And so at the top of that mountain, that's when I discovered I had, I started a nonprofit, Healing Women, Healing Nations. And from that, Michelle Speaks was birthed. It started out as a radio station internationally, and then it turned into a life coaching and speaking program. So the hardest thing was facing the deepest, darkest part of myself that I was ashamed of. And that was that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't enough, that I was no more used to this world, that I was damaged goods. And I just didn't want to carry that pain. I didn't want to hide it anymore. And how I overcame it is that when I climbed that mountain, I realized if I can climb a mountain, then I can do anything. Like I have the power to change my mind. I have the power to change the thoughts that I'm thinking. I have the power to recreate the life that I want. And I am not my trauma. I am more than that. And I wanted to help other women know that too and find that path. And so that's how I started doing. I just started talking about my journey. I started going to organizations and volunteering and just sharing my story. And I started helping other women, and it just kind of grew from there.
I think that's very, very courageous and very heartwarming and very holistic as well. So, when it comes to Michelle Speaks Co, like what unique methods, frameworks, or proprietary approaches have you developed to help women veterans achieve transformational healing? Like, what are some of your offerings or services that teach them that help in their journey?
Right. So my greatest framework is the Foundation to Freedom program. And that's basically your foundation is you cannot separate your personal from your professional from your spiritual. It it is all connected. You can't separate. I know we may have a tendency to compartmentalize things because it helps us to manage the day to day. But until you go back to the root of the thing that caused you to change or the pain, then you're not going to be able to move forward. You may have some success, but you're going to hit a glass ceiling until you deal with the root of it. And so that's what our Foundation to Freedom program does. It's a self-paced. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. It's a combination of um, digital. videos, and then you have the opportunity upon successfully completing to be transferred over into a community, our empowered to thrive community, because you need community to sustain anything in life. One of the things that I'm often say is that accountability plus community equals sustainability. You know, we weren't created to go through this life alone. We were created to commune. That is the root word of community. And so by creating your foundation to freedom, by finding the things that you need after you face your challenges, then you need a community to support you in that, that will challenge you in love to continue growing. And so that's the foundation, that's the framework that we do that. It's a virtual offering. I do offer one-on-one coaching, but that's after having an initial session consultation to determine where you are and how ready you are to really deal with the things that need to be dealt with to heal. And we have other
Definitely.
offerings, but that's the main. Mhm.
Yeah, I think you've explained it very, very beautifully right here. So, how has your personal journey influenced your coaching philosophy, and what are some of the key lessons that you've learned along the way?
So my philosophy is the foundation of my framework. The journey, my own personal experiences combined with the therapy, combined with unconventional therapy. So I realized I had to gain a greater understanding and awareness of who I was and who I was created to be. And so what I've learned is that I need to be challenged to continue to grow, to continue to pour out and use my gifts, because gifts are meant to be used in the service of others. Gifts are not meant to be hoarded, they're not meant to be hidden. And for me to continue to grow, I need to be challenged. And so I do things that some people consider crazy, but I just feel like I'm adventurous, but I need those things to reflect and to grow. And so I surround myself with a community. I believe that you should have at all points of your life, you need to have a mentor, someone that's mentoring you, and a mentee, someone that you're pouring into. So I live by that philosophy. So that is yeah, that's one aspect of the philosophy for Michelle Speaks. The other is through concerted training and recertifications and things like that, because things evolve and change. So I make sure that I'm continually educating myself so that I can offer my clients or my women the best, you know, not just mediocre. So I try to keep up to date on the different things that have shifted within, you know, the life coaching and the speaking community so that I can offer them what they need. And it's not a cookie cutter method. It's based on the individual. So that's why having the initial consultation is a must. You cannot, except for the Foundation of Freedom program, because that's self-paced and it's all virtual. For anything else, you must have a consultation, and we have to determine how ready you are to deal with things. Because if you're not ready to deal with things, then it's just going to cause you further damage. And one of my greatest philosophies is to do no harm.
That's excellent right there. So, with all of the clients that you've helped, can you share a real example of a client transformation that highlights your impact? Like, what was the situation and what changes did your coaching bring to them?
So one of the greatest transformations, and you know, if people, those that are tuning in, if you visit, you know, my YouTube channel, you'll see a lot of the testimonials. But one of the ones that stands out the most to me was during the pandemic. I had a young woman in her early 30s reach out to me, and she was just in a very dark place in her life. She had encountered a lot of trauma. She had a relationship with God, but she felt like that wasn't enough to help her through the practical having. And so one of the greatest things, testimonies, was seeing her go from being homebound, afraid to come out of her own home, and having challenges, you know, within her marriage and things like that, to being able to find her passion, find her calling. She started her own, business, and it was, related to healing. Her relationship improved with her family. She was happier. She had more joy in her life. And for me, that was the greatest transformation because she said that she no longer felt like she had to hide and she was not living as an imposter. She was living as her authentic self. So that's one of my greatest memories. And that's why I do what I do. Success means different things to different people. For me, success is bringing the gleam of hope and the light back into a woman's eyes where I once saw deadness and darkness.
I think that's really, really a heartwarming, client transformation story. And many
Mhm.
congratulations on you and to her also for achieving that.
Thank you.
Michelle, I just want to, ask you, uh, what are some of the awards, recognitions, certifications, or validations that really show the credibility of your work and the results that your clients have achieved?
That's ooh, it's gonna be hard to kind of remember them all, but a few of the ones that stand out the most to me was in 2021, I believe. I was nominated, selected, and inducted into the Florida Department of Veterans Hall of Fame Society in Florida for the work that I had been doing in the community. It was a surprise, and that was one of the greatest honors. We received the induction and the award from the governor. So that was an honor, and it was a testament to the work that I've been doing. Also, um, my team tracks all of our numbers and everything. So we have reached probably more now, because this was a couple of years ago, over 189,000 individuals that we positively impacted globally. I've received some other awards. It's hard to kind of remember them all. I'm actually going to receive an award next month in Savannah, Georgia, for speaking. So I'm honored and grateful for the journey. Mhm.
That's incredible. I think your wall of achievement will continue to grow because, of course, your work is, much greater and much bigger than, just the profits and the results because it's about people and changing their lives. So, yeah, that's phenomenal right there.
Thank you.
So, yes, Michelle. So, in terms of in the future, like what strategic partnerships, collaborations, or notable initiatives that you're willing to expand? Like, how have they contributed to your growth? Like, what are you planning for the future?
So that's a loaded question. So some of the collaborations and partnerships I've had in the past include the National Alliance of Mental Illness. I was one of their presenters and speakers and facilitators for about 3 or 4 years, and I received some awards from them. So I'm seeking to continue and maybe expand that collaboration. I was also connected with Mental Health America because I believe the foundation of everything is the state of our mental wealth. Um, and so I believe that impacts every other area of our life, our finances, our relationships, our spirituality, the state of our mental health is a large part of that. And I believe everything else is the umbrella. And so I'm seeking partnerships and collaborations with organizations that embody that align with that. As far as Michelle speaks, I'm going to continue to grow and impact people, wherever the doors of opportunity open. So I'm now part of an agency that we focus on going into the colleges and the universities and speaking to the next generation. So helping our next generation with their mental wellness and their mental wholeness so that they can effectively lead because they're going to be taking care of us as we get older. I'll say for myself, because you look very young, but I've been graced to be on this earth 55 years. I'm 55 years young, but I understand the importance of pouring back into the next generation. So that's going to be the focus, pouring back into those our women veterans, those that are coming up behind us, also pouring back into the colleges and universities because they're coming behind us. So expanding beyond just women veterans, expanding and going into leadership, because I believe there's a lesson in emotional resilience and leadership that can be learned and incorporated from what we offer.
That sounds very, very promising right there. So because you just mentioned about the next generation. So like we have a segment called as open letter where we ask advice for the upcoming leaders. So what guidance or message would you like to share for new leaders in the wellness, healing or coaching industry based on your experiences?
So what advice I would say is to follow your intuition, follow your heart. Don't be afraid to pioneer. Don't attempt to pattern yourself out from what you already see that's out there, because you are uniquely and you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so the things that God has placed within you is for you to go out and incorporate and give that gift away. So although there is a foundation of practical, things of how to structure whatever it is that you want to do, don't dilute and don't diminish and don't undervalue the vision that you've been given to create a space for people to heal, or for people, whatever your gift is. So I would say just to really tap into the vision that you're given and what your heart is leading you to do, and then surround yourself with people that can help to pour into that and guide you. It's there is much wisdom in the multitude of counsel. So surround yourself with people that are doing the thing that you want to do, but also look at it from the lens of how can I not just improve that, but what do I have to bring and offer to this world? What can I be the solution to? And so that's what I would say. Just really lean in and don't be afraid if you don't see anybody else doing it the way that you do it, because maybe you're the one that's called to be the pioneer.
I think that's a golden piece of advice right there, and very, very wise words as well. So this brings me to the last and final question for you. Looking ahead, what is your vision for Michelle Speaks Co? Like I think you just mentioned it, but if you can elaborate a little more, and also how do you hope to continue transforming the lives of women veterans over the next years?
So what do I envision for Michelle Speaks? I envision Michelle Speaks being um global. And so, the pathway to that is I'm now with my team. We are speaking and putting together a a mobile, as you would say. I don't even know how to categorize it, but we're going to be going state to state, just offering our quarterly gatherings. And the name of those gatherings is the Art of Reconnection Wellness Gathering, and just going from state to state, and offering them a space to begin the journey to healing, but with practical tools. We're going to come with booklets and, of course, all of our materials. And so that is the vision for Michelle expanding. Because I've expanded and I'm now doing other things, I also have a publishing company, Scroll and Sword Publishing. So I've kind of veered off into doing that. And I also have a ministry, Holda Ministries. And so just really pouring into the next generation of spiritual leaders, as well as helping women veterans.
I think that sounds really ambitious, and I wish you all the best for that. So, Michelle, this brings us to the end of the interview. But before I take a leave from you today, I just want to give you a small vote of thanks. So, thank you so much for sharing with us your powerful journey and meaningful insights. Your work is a reminder that true healing begins with courage, honesty, and the willingness to confront what we often hide. You're creating a lasting impact by helping individuals rediscover their strength and step into a more empowered version of themselves. We look forward to seeing Michelle Speaksco continue to inspire and transform lives across the globe. For all of our viewers, we will be back soon with more conversations featuring inspiring leaders and change makers right here on the Enterprise World magazine. Michelle, thank you so much for your time and effort for this interview. I wish you all the best with Michelle Speaks Co, and I think you're beautiful inside and out, and I hope that the you are the light of so many people's life, and I hope that you continue to do whatever your heart wishes for, and you get much success in that.
Thank you so much. And again, it was an
Thank you.
honor to share the platform
It is
and to
our
inspire
honor.
hope.
Yes, I think it is our honor to host you, and it was a lovely conversation with you. I think I've just learned so many things from you, and definitely I'm going to check out all of your work soon.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Bye. Take care. Have a
Bye.
great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.